Hi, everybody. Welcome. This is Daniel Gray. I am the Trailer Park Prophet coming at you live from Crestone, Colorado. This is Loco Friday. How's everybody doing? Everybody kind of cold out there today? I'll tell you what, it is really cold in Crestone, Colorado. We've been averaging about 7 below zero. I think it is the average here in Crestone, and it's definitely kind of cold. And every one of my friends, or a lot of my friends across the United States, are experiencing the same thing. Winter, a lot of times we go into these Indian summers, and that just didn't happen this year. We went from fall to winter, man. Boom. And it's cold, cold, cold. But what's really amazing, I don't know if you've heard this story yet, because it literally happened today. Friday in the Middle East, it snowed for the first time in 100 years. That's right. There's snow on palm trees in Egypt right now as we speak. I got this story right here. We'll dig into it. A real remarkable story indeed. Most people think of the Middle East as desert, and you can tell that because a lot of the Middle East is sand, and the predominant tree is palm trees. But there's a picture right here. I got this from the Minority Report, and here is a picture of Egypt. Yeah, this is Cairo, Egypt. This is one of the major downtown squares in Cairo, Egypt, and it looks like about an inch of snow, maybe 2 inches. You can look into the grass, and it looks like an inch of snow, inch and a half, 2 inches of snow. And you can see all across Cairo. This was Friday. Let's see what time. It doesn't really tell me what time it was in Cairo, but it's still, I think it's still Friday in Cairo as we speak. But it says here, the headline is, Snow in Egypt for the first time in 100 years. What's that global warming working out for you? Or how's that global warming working out for you? And here's another tree here. Now here there looks like there's a little more snow. The snow that has blanketed much of the Middle East turned Cairo white on Friday, with local news reports claiming it was Egypt's first snowfall in 112 years. And it says the city averages less than an inch of rain each year. Less than an inch of rain each year. And hundreds stopped their walk to work or school to snap pictures of falling flakes and tweeting their delights. Now, it was even worse in Egypt, or not Egypt, but in Israel. I read an account. Wait, this could be what I'm looking for right here. There was over 2 feet of snow in Israel. And it says that snow closes roads in Israel, is a source of wonder in Egypt. I mean, you're looking at 2 generations of people, maybe 3 generations of people in the Middle East that have never seen snow. And let's see, this is Dateline Cairo by Laurel King and Bathsheba Sulbyman. And this was posted at 4:28 a.m. on December 13th. So I'm thinking that probably this would be in the morning their time. Who knows? Anyways, here's the story. It says snow-coated domes and minarets Friday as a record Middle East storm compounded the suffering of Syrian refugees, sent the Israel army scrambling to dig out stranded motorists, and gave Egyptians a rare glimpse of snow in their capital. Nearly 3 feet of snow closed roads in and out of Jerusalem, which is set in the high hills, and thousands in around the city were left without power. Israel's soldiers and police rescued hundreds trapped in their cars by snow and ice. In the West Bank, the branches of olive trees groaned under the weight of the snow. In Cairo, where local news reports said the last recorded snowfall was more than 100 years ago, children in outlying districts capered in white-covered streets. Adults marveled at the sight, tweeting pictures of snow-dusted parks and squares. And it goes on, it says... on social media, some joke that the snowfall was the mystical work of. All right, I'm not going to tell you that. This is a little too deep. This is obviously an Egyptian newspaper. Let's see. And of course, the worst part of this snowstorm is all of the people that are refugees from the Syrian war that we talk about all the time. The inclement weather worsened the situation for tens of thousands of Syrian refugees in Lebanon, where many live in makeshift camps, abandoned buildings, and other temporary sites lacking heat and protection from the elements. So those people, they're basically living in little shanty towns underneath tarps. And man, can you imagine getting snow if you're living in those conditions? In Lebanon's Bekaa Valley, many refugees were digging out snow from their provisional shelters amid sub-freezing conditions. The situation is likely worse for the multitudes displaced people inside rebel-held and contested areas in Syria. Just think about those people who can't get any help, where clashes and blockades by both sides in the country's civil war have severely hampered the delivery of aid. In Israel, where the storm was described as the heaviest December snowfall since 1953, thick clouds temporarily closed the Ben Gurion International Airport, causing the diversion of 2 international flights to Cyprus. The mayor of Jerusalem, Nick Backhart, likened the storm to a snow tsunami. I always get that wrong. The mayor of Jerusalem called the snowstorm in Israel, a snow tsunami. And, you know, this has got to be really embarrassing for the left. I know a lot of my friends are having fun with this, and where's Al Gore? I mean, I would love to have the president come out and speak on this storm in the Middle East, or come out and promise aid to the Middle East. Help them dig out of this unusual snowstorm. I mean, I know that's not going to happen. I'm just being kind of silly, of course. But I'm at a loss for words, because in my mind, it's clear that global warming is nothing but a big lie. And people like Al Gore and President Obama and all the professors out there, they know it's a big lie too. And we've known this for a long time. We've been watching this whole thing develop, this whole notion of global warming, and then when it was determined that the climate models were wrong, that's when the media and the Al Gore types, the environmental religions, started saying global climate change. And I'm certain that these people are not going to back off their stance that we're having radical weather changes and it's due to man's burning of fossil fuels. They're not going to back off of that. I don't see that happening because they're into this so deep that they actually believe their own rhetoric. And so I don't see anyone coming forward and saying, you know what, we made a mistake and we're sorry. It's just not going to happen. So now the left and the president and Al Gore and all the environmental professors across the United States are going to have to make up excuses. And I'm sure the excuse that they're going to make up is that this is an example of climate change. This snowing in the Middle East. You just know that they are. They're going to blame it on climate change. And it's a brilliant strategy in that you can't refute it. There's absolutely no way really to refute a claim of an environmentalist pointing to the Middle East in snow as we speak that, oh my God, that's just climate change. That's caused by too much fossil fuel burning by humans. And I know they're not going to have any shame. They're absolutely positively not going to have any shame. And they ought to have some shame, but they're not. I don't see them admitting they're wrong. I mean, they're just going to say global climate change. And, my friends have been talking a lot about how this is. I'm not going to go into that. I was really excited when I saw this story. And right now, I don't know. I'm kind of thinking to myself, well, no one's going to believe it. You can't convince anybody that there's not climate change, even in the face of Mother Nature herself weighing in her organic way to show humanity, hey, look, there's no climate change. But people aren't going to be like that. People are going to stick to their guns. And it's just kind of depressing. And the reason it depresses me is, okay, now I know definitively I'm right about climate change and global warming. I understand that now. But yet there's no solace in that. There's no parade, there's no fanfare. And this battle is going to continue on. We're going to have to continually battling these environmentalists who are more progressive socialists than they are environmentalists, because that's really the issue. The issue in all of climate change is a worldwide income just distribution scheme. That's basically what environmental lobbying and propaganda is all about. They want to get this carbon tax, and whoever controls the carbon tax is going to be insanely rich. Their families, their grandkids, their great-grandkids, they're all going to be insanely rich. Anyone that's involved with this carbon tax trading, if they ever get that scheme off the ground, they're going to be multi-billionaires. And that's really what this is all about making the right kind of people millionaires and billionaires and taking away money from really the middle class. The middle class is does eventually pay for everything. And if you put a carbon tax on carbon, then it's going to get passed along to the consumer. And the majority of people in the United States, as an example, are middle class, and they're going to wind up having to pay for all this global warming taxes and carbon trading and all that. So, I don't know. I thought I was going to be a lot happier about this, but I'm not for some reason. All right, next story. Herman Cain's website. Herman Cain, you might remember, is a black conservative, and he ran for president, or actually ran for the Republican nomination to be the Republican actual representative to run candidate for president. And of course he didn't make it out of the primaries. At any rate, now he has his own website, and he's out there promoting himself and promoting common sense, and he comes across some things that are pretty funny. And this today is a pretty good example of just how desperate the administration is to promote Obamacare. And this could be a sign of desperation. I mean, we were talking about in the beginning of the year about how Obamacare spent $650 million in California promoting Obamacare, and how that sounded like a lot of money. And I imagine there's a lot of people in California that got paid a lot of money for distributing the pro-Obama propaganda. But now it's to the point where President Obama has to get people to sign up for Obamacare, and to do that, he's cognizant that he has to get the young people to sign up. And we've talked about this. The reason Obamacare, for the numbers to work, they need to get as many young people signed up and paying premiums, because they're the ones that won't need any health care. And they're going to take their money to pay for the health care of the older and sicker ones. That's their plan. So to encourage young people to sign up for Obamacare, they're trying to get into these young people's heads. And they're doing that by appealing to what they think is the stereotypical millennial kind of person, the people we talked about. I call them from 18 to 35, the young people. And so the Obama administration, in essence, thinks they understand who these millennials are. And before we talked about this, they were doing ads in Colorado, which, by the way, we have two good stories from Gunnison, Colorado, so stick around. And they're relevant to the whole United States, I might add. So they started in with these kind of ads. Like one of these ads for Obamacare, it has 3 college-age kids with their mouths open and their tongues hanging out, and they're 3 males, and the 2 males are holding up this other male, and he's doing a keg stand, drinking the beer. And, you know, the 2 guys are holding red plastic cups, you know, the traditional keg beer party container that people often use. But that, you know, they were saying that got insurance in this ad of these college kids doing keg stands. And I'm trying to read the copy. It says, "Oh, bro, insurance. Keg stands are crazy. Not having health insurance is crazier. Don't tap into your beer money, so cover the medical bills. We got it covered, so you can too. Thanks, Obamacare. Go to insurance." And so this is an ad directed at the millennials to try and convince them to sign up for Obamacare. And this ad, it was all over Colorado and may have been used in other places. I don't know. But the issue here is how they're trying to stereotype the millennials, and whether or not the millennials take offense to being characterized as a bunch of crazy dumbasses drinking beer from a keg. I mean, in a way, it's kind of insulting, but I'd have to actually go and talk to one of these millennials. I mean, they'll probably just, you know, blow it off. So what? And then this other ad has 5 cute women holding a ski and says, "Got insurance." And it says, "Get your shots. Shot skis keep us happy. Flu shots keep us healthy. Saving money on flu shots leaves us more money for fun shots. We got insurance." So they were connecting doing shots and getting flu shots. So anyways, that's their modus operandi. And it says here, it says It's no secret that pro-Obamacare folks are desperate to get young people to sign up for insurance, from college recruiting tours to speeches to online ads. They've been gearing all their efforts in that direction. Sadly, most of their attempts to rap with the kids have come across as the kind of stilted, unfunny, awkward dogma usually associated with the sex talk. And so this is kind of interesting. I like this. So anyway, this video, it says here, well, if you thought those were ads I just talked about, you ain't seen nothing yet. There's a new viral Obamacare video that's making the rounds while simultaneously making you question the sanity of people involved. It's a parody of Snoop Dogg's hip hop hit Drop It Like It's Hot, and it features a rapping Obama impersonator. It is, in a word, awful. It's awful in terms of intent, awful in terms of comedic value, and awful in terms of quality of hip-hop. The song offers such gems as President Obama claiming he's the prez, and I'm the man, been the prez since yes we can, and I dealt with all the health care while dealing with Iran. And that's one of the raps in this video. And that is an impressive feat, especially when you consider that he also claims my healthcare's the sizzle. It's chock full of top-notch healthcare provisos. It actually says that. America's new favorite song was created by Get Covered America, a national organization trying to promote Obamacare. Eventually, they hope to do this by making sure young people are aware of all the amazing provisos it offers. And we're going to listen to this a little bit. You got to listen to this. Now, the main character is Obama. All right? So just get a little taste of this. I mean, it's really quite remarkable how desperate Obama is. All right, come on, President Obama. There's our president dancing. Spray painting on the wall, some graffiti.
Let me be clear. When I'm in the Oval Office, call me President Barack, President Barack. And if my critics get an attitude, I tell them to stop, I tell them to stop, I tell them to stop. And if you need that new health care, sign up because it's hot, sign up because it's hot, sign up because it's hot.
Come on.
Chief, and I'm 2 terms strong, plus I've got this health care which has got it going on. I am a nice press with some nice trims. See this swag pin? See my swag's clean, portable health care. Officially a go. Oh, that's better than what we had a year ago. Your options are really widespread. Don't worry about what them, they, her, or he said. I can educate you. This could be your health ed. Jump on your mom's plan. That's how you get a headset. Present, I'm the man, been the president. Yes, we can, and I dealt with all this health care while dealing with our rent. So don't try to talk about my plan like the people haven't wanted this. They've waited long for this. And it covers all conditions that can pre-exist.
All right, well, anyway, you get the gist of it. It's kind of cheesy, and really, I'm sure the Obama administration can say, well, this isn't our organization, but I can't imagine anyone around Obama doing anything without his approval, especially on this level. And really, you look at this video, and it's just kind of weird. I can't imagine who their target market is. I mean, I know it's supposed to be the millennials, but I can't imagine the millennials looking at this rap promotion of Obamacare and think that President Obama shoes on the right feet. All right, let's see. Oh, Glenn Beck has a new book out. if you're a Glenn Beck fan, it's called Miracles and Massacres, True and True and Untold Stories of Making of America, History as It's Supposed to Be Told, True and Thrilling. And he's a good book writer. A lot of people read his books. Glenn Beck, Miracles and Massacres. Let's see. We got some new poll ratings from the AP. And it looks like Congress is kind of suffering too. This story does come from Yahoo and the AP. Story by Charles Battingman. Says heading into their congressional election year, Americans hold Congress in striking low regard, and nearly two-thirds say they would like to see their House members replaced. A new poll finds. Wow. Now normally people like their congressmen but don't like other people's congressmen. So this is kind of a departure from the norm. Even though Americans are feeling somewhat better about the economy and their personal finances, elected officials in Washington aren't benefiting from the improved mood. The Associated Press poll found that President Obama's approval rating was negative 58% disapproval of the job he's doing as president, while only 42% approve. Now, these are really bad numbers for the president, any president. I think these are almost worse than Bush at the same time in his administration. Obama isn't running for office again, however, whereas all 435 House seats and one-third of the U.S. Senate seats are on the ballot next November, and nearly 9 in 10 adults disapprove of the way lawmakers are handling their jobs. The low opinion of Congress don't necessarily signal major power shifts next year in the Republican-controlled House and or Democratic-controlled Senate. House Democrats need to gain at least 17 net seats to claim the majority, but many House districts are so solidly liberal or conservative that incumbents can withstand notable drops in popularity and still keep their seats. Obama's hope to gain 6 Senate seats overall, or Republicans' hopes to gain 6 Senate seats overall to retake control of that chamber for the last 2 years of Obama's presidency. One major issue most Americans continue to favor providing a path to legal status for millions of immigrants living here illegally. 55% support it and 43% oppose. Now, I've seen different numbers than that. The Senate passed a major immigration bill that would provide a legalization path and a whole lot more. But the House has sidelined the issue so far. Despite the relatively low opinions of Congress and Obama, the national mood is not quite as bleak as it was in October, when partisan stalemate led to a 16-day partial government shutdown and fears of a possible default. They'll never default. They can't default. I'm so sick of hearing the lamestream media say that the government's going to default. They're not going to default on their loans. Says more Americans now say things are heading in the right direction and the economy is improving. The AP GFK poll found, but those figures are still fairly anemic, below 40%. Congressional approval stands at 13% and 86% of adults disapproving. Ay, ay, ay. That sentiment holds across party lines. 86% of Democrats and 88% of Republicans and 84% of independents disapprove. Wow. Man, that says that most people out there aren't very happy with their government, Democrat or Republican. Now it says that Democrats have a slim edge as the party Americans would prefer to control Congress, 39% to 33%, but a sizable 27% say it doesn't matter who's in charge. All right, I think I've heard enough of this poll. I'm sorry. I have a hard time believing AP and Yahoo All right, here I like this. Here's a, every time I see one of these postings, I feel like I got to put it up because a lot of people don't understand who this woman is, Valerie Jarrett. She's from Iran, and she's one of the, well, she is the top advisor to President Obama. And this is before it's news. And, I just wanted to give you a few memorable quotes from Valerie Jarrett, President Obama's number one advisor. She said, and this is when she was talking about winning the second election. She said, after we win this election, it's our turn, payback time. Everyone not with us is against us, and they better be ready because we don't forget. That's Valerie Jarrett. The ones who helped us will be rewarded. The ones who opposed us will get what they deserve. There is going to be hell to pay. Congress won't be a problem for us this time. No election to worry about after this is over. And we have 2 judges all ready to go. Valerie Jarrett, October 2012. And most of you know the look you get when you honestly try and convince a member of the sheeple nation that America is on life support and that tens of millions are in grave danger. Along these lines, I was recently speaking with a friend of mine from Tennessee and began to point out how bad things in this country have become. Inevitably, the discussion began to center around the subject of unwarranted detention centers, such as the ones I've identified on this site, including NFL stadiums, NBA and NHL arenas, and shopping malls. And I added that this is on top of the fact that the U.S. already houses 2 million inmates, mostly for private profit through the CCA. And I told them that the DHS has signed agreements with all these entities so that Americans could be detained without due process. And I don't know. I can't read any more of this. This is a pretty good article, though. You might want to check it out. You can go to my Facebook page and read the rest of it. And I think this is a pretty stable source. These guys, before it's news, they seem pretty reliable. So you might want to spend some time and. All right, you're listening to Daniel Gray. I am the Trailer Park Prophet, broadcasting live from, I almost said Gunnison, Crestone, Colorado. I'm looking at Mount Crestone right now. So, okay, here's a interesting. See if this will post for me. Oh, okay, this is from Breitbart. Now, I haven't reported on this story, but maybe you've heard something about this. The press, the lamestream press, as I dearly refer to them, they now are angry at the Obama administration because of lack of transparency. And for those of you who are political wonks like the Trailer Park Prophet, you might remember that President Obama said that he was going to have the most transparent administration in the history of the United States. Well, that has not been the case. And over the last, I would say, 3 months, the lamestream media has been complaining about how they have access to the president. And what really got them mad is that they were told at press events that the individual news outlets couldn't bring their own cameras, and that they were to use the pictures that were taken by the president's own personal photographer. And the press didn't like that. They didn't like that at all. They like to bring their own cameras because they know the Obama administration, or any administration for that matter, is only going to release photos to make the president look good. And so when the president decided that he didn't want the media taking pictures of him, because, we have lots of pictures out there of the president looking kind of goofy, they don't want that. Well, the press finally got mad about it. Well, they've been mad about it now for a few months, but During yesterday's White House press briefing, the press corps interrupted in protest over the Obama administration's lack of transparency and media access. The press corps seemed to be in complete agreement that Obama and the Obama White House has been less transparent than the Bush White House, quite a condemnation for the self-described most transparent administration in history. And so the tensions between the press corps and Jay Carney, the president's spokesperson, in the White House briefing room over the last 3 months has become a little testy. And yesterday it kind of came to a head. And it says here, lately tensions have been simmering between the White House and the media over access and transparency, especially as it pertains to photographers. Late last month, a number of elite news organizations, that's code for lamestream media, submitted a letter of protest to the White House press secretary Jay Carney, demanding more access for photojournalists and less reliance on White House photographs. Things appear to boil over today due to the fact that no photojournalists were allowed on Air Force One during the president's trip to South Africa earlier this week. As he usually does whenever the media gets upset, Carney attempted to smooth the course through the assurances that the president shared their concerns and that something would be done about it. The pablum did not sit well with CNN's Brianna Kelyar, who argued Obama was not meeting his own transparency standard and that the Bush White House was more accessible. Carney shot back with, "Did you cover Bush?" And so listen to this exchange. Here again, here's Jay Carney and another reporter yesterday in the White House.
Isn't it also standard that this administration set for itself? You say past White Houses have done things similarly. I mean, anyone here can tell you that there's less access than under the Bush administration, and yet it was President Obama who said, I did at times, and it was President Obama who talked about transparency being a hallmark of his administration. So isn't it sort of the problem is that he has set up a standard himself that he's not meeting? That his White House is not meeting.
What I can tell you, Brianna, is every White House, every president has had meetings that the press didn't cover. Every White House has released photographs of if they had children, of presidents and first ladies with their children that obviously the press didn't cover. But I understand that also the press corps has always sought and sometimes demanded more access. And I want to work with, and we want to work with the photographers and others to see how we can be more responsive.
Yeah, right. That's so funny. And I think that here's another video. This is actually YouTube, in case you didn't hear that. This could be similar. This is from the same press conference. Let's give this a listen.
A lot of this, some of this anyway, has to do with the fundamental transformations in the media of which we and other institutions are simply participants, but not we did not.
All right. Well, we got to scratch that story, I guess.
Create the internet, this administration, and guys.
The internet had nothing to do with Air Force One. There was constraint. Our problem is the access. You can put out 1 million pictures a day from White House photography. Bar.
And what I'm saying and what I'm saying is that we are going to work with. We are going to. As past White Houses have done, and we hold on, John. And so but it's not. You think that? Hey guys, if you're telling me that on every flight that President Bush took, and every flight that President Clinton took, and hold on, but what I'm saying is, guys, what I'm saying is, we hear you, and I want to address this, and I want to work with photographers.
We hear ya.
To improve that situation and see if we can be responsive to your concerns. All I'm noting in answer to Michael's question is that this is part of a bigger transformation that's happening out there that's driven by the ability of everyone to post anything on the internet free of charge, so that you don't have to buy that newspaper or subscribe to that wire service to see that photograph. And that's true, Ann. It's true. Yeah.
It's true, Ann. It's true.
On Air Force One, we understand there were constraints in Africa on the ground, but the internet had nothing to do on Air Force One when you had a large group of reporters in the pool, photographers there as well, who could have come up with Pete Souza to the front of Air Force One and taken a couple of pictures. Maybe not as many as Pete Souza did, but we were not allowed. And you can post as many as you want. Yes, but you could have allowed us.
Yeah, these guys are mad.
We're gonna address, and I want to work.
We're gonna address. We're gonna look into this.
And the photographers to see if we can be responsive in a way that.
All right, enough of that. It's just funny to see the lamestream media get their neck hair up over their beloved President Obama. All right, let's move to the. I mean, this is Local Friday, so let's move on. By the way, this is Daniel Gray. I am Trailer Park Prophet, broadcasting live from Crestone, Colorado. This is Local Friday. I have the Gunnison Country Times in front of me. And this is a story I've reported on quite a bit. This is their lead story. Says Sign of the Times, controversy erupts in Irwin over proposed easement changes. A battle of competing perspectives is brewing over the future of public rights of way near the Alpine enclave of Irwin, 12 miles west of Cresta Butte. A group calling itself the Lake Irwin Coalition, LIC, was formed in recent months, taking aim at a portion of Scarp Ridge LLC's plan for development of a year-round commercial resort near the historic mining town site. At the root of the coalition's qualms is Scarp Ridge plan to see the public use of easements in the vicinity of the historic Irwin Lodge. And the deal here is interesting because what's going on in Cresta Butte is the power clique, the mucky mucks, as I like to call the most leaders in every community, particularly in communities that are run by progressive socialists like Cresta Butte is, of people who are not from Colorado, not from Cresta Butte, but they came to Cresta Butte and they took over all the institutions, and they took it upon themselves to fight further development of the ski area that is already there in Cresta Butte, because it's a corporation, and that's what progressive socialists like to do, is fight the man, fight the corporation. And the newspaper, the Gunnison Country Times and the Cresta Butte News and K-Butt, the radio station, are always after the evil corporation. The Muellers own this corporation. They're always after the mean corporation for trying to develop or expand the ski area. But this group in Lake Irwin, the Scarp Ridge LLC, had the backing of the Cresta Butte mayor, and Billy Rankin was also on the Cresta Butte Town Council, and they were in bed with this Scarp Ridge LLC to provide approval from the Cresta Butte government, and they were given, the mayor and the councilman, stocks in this corporation, this Sharp Ridge LLC. And interesting enough, this Sharp Ridge LLC is a corporation that's funded with Russian money, and they've been going up there to Lake Irwin and doing all this development and not doing a development plan. And even the mayor and Billy Rankin put in a septic system and didn't get a license. But they're up there developing like crazy, and they're able to get around all of the environmental regulations because they are the people. They're in bed with the political elite. They're in bed with the movers and shakers. They're in bed with the progressive socialists. They're part of the power clique. And finally, some people like this coalition, Lake Irwin Coalition president, Daniel David Goroff, stands. He actually just stands behind the sign. See, does he say anything here? Well, we're going to move into this article. It's on. Well, here, maybe I can go to it right now. What is that? 9A9. See if I can get this to respond. We'll go right to this. Then I have another really cool story that I think you're really going to enjoy. But see, I'll bet you nothing is mentioned of this new organization to head off this development in the Crested Butte paper, because I imagine the people that own the Crested Butte paper or run the Crested Butte paper are the ones who are involved in the development of Lake Irwin, and then they're against the development at Mount Crested Butte. And that's exactly how progressive socialists work. You know, they say they're for the environment, but they turn around and promote development of capital construction, and tearing into watersheds and building roads. They're fine with doing all that, cutting down trees, as long as it's their project. And I'm telling you, that's exactly how progressive socialists work. And I know this is how they operate all around the world. And I have other examples, but you're going to have to trust me or do your own research. All right. Computers moving slow. I want to get into this story a little more because this is such an important story. And, it's just it's kind of like a learning moment for all of us. All right. God, my computer is just crawling here. If I knew it was going to be this slow, I would have ditched it. Okay, here. Okay, back to Lake Irwin. Officials from Sharp Ridge and its affiliates say that the current easements invite trespassing. They have proposed building a new trailhead and relocating a trail that would bar access to the historic lodge by the public. LIC, on the other hand, wants to see the easements remain and stay open to the public. Some people are split on the development and the project, said LLC President David Gotteroff. Of the group's members, the only one thing that everyone agrees on wholeheartedly is the easements. No one wants to see the easements disappear. The issue came to a head this past weekend. LIC in recent weeks has been distributing maps and depicts the easements and private property boundaries as a signal to the public that the routes are open to all. LIC posted the map over the weekend on a sign that was placed near the Irwin Lodge, but by Tuesday, Sharp Ridge officials said that they had removed the signs. Further, they say that the sign is inaccurate. Gotteroff fired back on behalf of LIC early Wednesday in an email to Tammy Gustafson, snow ranger for the Gunnison Ranger District, and other U.S. Forest Service leaders. He accused Lake Irwin backcountry guides. That's the business of the mayor, who has they have all these like satellite corporations in this development, so that one corporation's doing one thing and another one's doing another, and it looks from the casual viewer that there's no organization, because if there was one central corporation, they'd have to file a development plan, but they're getting around that by having all these satellite corporations. He accused Irwin Backcountry Guides, IBC, which runs the Snowcat skiing operation Irwin, in placing no trespassing signs at the trailhead of one of the routes in question. These signs misinform the public about their legitimate and legal right to use and access this trail in order to access the U.S. Forest Service public land on Scarp Ridge. He wrote, on behalf of several Irwin residents and the general public, I must insist that you address this issue immediately. And Got Tarif told the Times last week that the LIC is posed to take legal action to protect the easements if necessary. And the deal with these easements is that, it allows the public more access to forest land. And if these easements go away, then what that does is sort of de facto give that land control to the Scarpa Ridge Corporation. That's kind of what happens. Because the way this is working now is that the Scarp Ridge has licenses to operate on Forest Service lands. And if they can prevent, through these easements, other public people from entering this leased land, then they de facto own the land because they control it. And it's a real creepy way to keep the public off their own public lands. And this Godaroff said it would be unprecedented for the Forest Service to take away an existing easement, and I will say for our perspective would trigger a guaranteed legal action, he said. So, things are heating up here, and I do have to give Country Times for actually weighing in on this story. I've been after him for years and years, that this is a story and you need to be on it. And not be afraid of all your little friends up in Crested Butte, and understand that what's going on up there in Crested Butte is wrong, and people are losing their rights and their ability to access our national forest. And you can bet that this story is not going to be in the Crested Butte Times, because the mucky muck of Crested Butte are involved with this Lake Irwin development. And it's kind of it's almost a conspiracy, you know what I mean? It's really bad what's going on. And it's amazing in this country that, well, I guess it's not all that amazing. But all right. And then the second story in the Gunnison Country Times, it says, sheriff to continue fight against gun laws. Judge says lawman must sue individually, not officially, which I don't think is the case. This is a story again from the Gunnison Country Times, and it's written by Chris Rourke. It says Gunnison County Sheriff Rick Beckseckler will continue as a plaintiff in a lawsuit challenging new Colorado gun laws, but not in an official capacity. Beckseckler will now do so as an individual, asserting his rights rather than as the sheriff of Gunnison County. Becker is one of 55 Colorado sheriffs who launched a legal challenge in response to the new gun control measures passed earlier this year, which cost the jobs of 2 Colorado state senators because they voted for gun control and they ended up getting recalled. Those laws, which limit gun magazine capacities to 15 rounds and require universal background checks for gun owners. You already have to get a universal background check, Chris Rourke. Duh. Went into effect July 1. But this is a perfect example of how the media lies by omission. I'm sorry, Chris Rourke, you're lying. You're not giving the full details of the Colorado law that passed. At any rate, the sheriffs filed suit alongside 21 other plaintiffs, saying the laws violated the Second Amendment. In a recent ruling, U.S. District Court Judge Marcia Krager stated that the sheriffs had no standing in the lawsuit in their official capacity. She stated that the sheriffs represent a political subdivision of the state of Colorado, and therefore could not sue the state. The state relies upon the political subdivision doctrine, which teaches that a political subdivision of a state may not sue its parent state under certain provisions of the United States Constitution, Krager wrote in the decision. But at any rate, he's going to continue on, and these other sheriffs are going to continue on in their own name. And like they said, there's already been other people who having joined in this suit. Let's see. Oh, we got a little report on the economy in Gunnison. That might be worth taking a look at. Oh, wait, I lost my... Oh, here we go. I want to get back into this gun case, because this is a big case. This is the first time, I think, that there's been a case against a state government for passing more stringent gun limitation. So I imagine this is something that's going to be watched all across the United States. It'd be really interesting to see who helps the sheriffs fund their legal battle and who helps the state. Okay, it says the doctrine of political subdivision standing applies to the sheriff claims in their official capacity, which actually does kind of make sense. Oh, and this is kind of cool too. It shows well, I think that's where this is. This is a file photo. I actually got the College Young Republicans. I helped get the College Young Republicans started in Gunnison at the campus at Western Colorado State University, and here's a photo of a event that we put on, and it was to inform people in the Gunnison area about gun control, and the Young Republicans actually put it on, so it was really a good deal. At any rate, Attorney Jay Coppell filed a motion to amend or clarify on Monday, saying the sheriffs were already represented in the lawsuit in their individual capacities. All the lawyers on both sides of the case have always treated the sheriffs as having two capacities, official and personal. Coppell told the Times, "This says very politely to honor you overlooked the individual side we've been in already. The simplest thing is just to say, okay, keep on going forward, the individuals, and not officially." But, I meant, well, it says here, the federal courts have invented a lot of ways over the years to restrict the standing of various possible parties, and this is one of them, he said. This significantly limits the ability to present information about the harm that these bills cause to law enforcement officers. Bieseckler largely agrees with Coppell, saying that he considers the enforcement of laws impossible. Bieseckler says he originally joined the lawsuit because he felt the laws were a blanketed approach and not to necessarily solve the evils of the world. But at any rate, this is good. At least the Gunnison Country Times is doing their job. And before, they were reluctant to actually report on this story, or they buried it. And the Gunnison Country Times didn't report at all about the recall of the two Colorado State senators. So again, they were lying by omission back then. But now it looks like Chris Dickey is maybe trying to be an editor. Although here's his editorial today. It says BLM arson must not be taught. Oh, no, we're not going to do that story. Kind of a weird deal. Somebody set the BLM office on fire. And Chris Dickey here in his headline says, "What scares me is that the public perception influenced so heavily by us versus them message that blares incessantly and seems to have become the new political paradigm could grow so callous that the response to this unconscionable criminal act could be probably deserved." So well, maybe I should delve into this a little bit. we talked a little bit about in Gunnison what's going on is that the BLM and the environmentalists are closing down dirt roads in the forest, and the homeboys don't like it. And here recently there was a arson of a BLM building in Gunnison, Colorado. And it says a hideous act of violence occurred in Gunnison 2 weeks ago. We reported on it on the front page. Yeah. The crime is unsolved and it continues to nag at me. Well, here he looks like he's going ahead and he's already accusing the people that have been against the BLM closing roads. And before the actual crime is solved, he's already taken a whack at these people, which is kind of a low blow in my mind. You know, you should wait until the facts of the case come out. I mean, it could be a disgruntled lover for all Chris Dickey knows, but it looks like he's already... And then look at the way he deals with... What scares me? Chris Dickey is so scared. What scares Chris Dickey is that
public perception influenced so heavily by a us versus them message that blares incessantly and seems to have become the new political paradigm. Well, if they don't yell at you, Chris Dickey, you don't frickin' listen, meathead. How about that? You don't print their articles. You treat them like dirt. And then if they do get mad at these meetings, then you report on this. Oh, what scares me? Well, Chris Dickey, why don't you go back to your hometown? And maybe you won't be so scared. Maybe you're not man enough to handle it in the West. How about that? New political paradigm. People standing up for their rights. And you have a lot of nerve to just question that they could be possibly involved with this arson in Gunnison. All right. He goes on to say, in reality, that firearm ban created... All right. And I should have read this article. Sorry. I was preoccupied. But, you know, you can go to the Gunnison County Times. You can look it up. At least I got those two stories. I wasn't going to do anything about what's going on in Gunnison, but I'm glad I did because there are some interesting things going on in Gunnison, and as you probably know, I think Gunnison is a good example of towns in the West. So I like talking about what they do because I think it's transferable to your own town. All right, you're listening to the Trailer Park Prophet. My name is Daniel Gray. I am your host du jour for Local Friday. Thanks a lot for being on board. I know you have a lot of various choices for your media consumption, and I'm very grateful that you feel like your time is well spent with the Trailer Park Prophet. All right, here I got some fun stuff. This is from Western Journalism. This is an excellent website. It's called the Western Center for Journalism. And they got a YouTube video of Jon Stewart, and we'll give a listen here because it'd be kind of fun for us, I think, if you missed Jon Stewart. This was posted yesterday. It says, why don't we agree with the liberal comedian Jon Stewart? But here he lampoons the NSA, the National Security Administration, repeated claims that it respected the rights of American citizens, while in reality the truth is, well, somewhat different. All right, here's Jon Stewart on The Daily Show talking about our most preeminent spy agency, the NSA. Take it away, John. Oh my God, that dog's back again. All right, you guys listen to Jon Stewart, and then I'm going to throw this beast some dog food, throw it into the snow, so...
For a love that never fades over any amount of time.
Yeah, something to...
Enzymes, with 50% more animal protein than other...
Oh, what do you know? How ironic. Here is an ad for dog food.
As long as his love. Iams keep love strong. For a real tasty
I
way
do
to eat
like this
lunchtime,
ad.
there's new
It has
Loco
that big
Wolf
old
Bites.
gray, huge dog. I
Artificial
can't remember
flavors
what they're
combined with
called, but
real
this lady, this big old gray, hairy dog, just
new Ives Wolf
jumps up
Delights.
on top of her, and it's just beautiful. All right, here's John. Welcome back, John.
Our guest tonight, former Pakistani ambassador to the United States, Hussein Haqqani, will be on the program. But let us begin tonight with the National Security Administration, which is the subject of our new ongoing series. That thing they said they're not doing. Over the past 6 months or so, the American people have been playing something of a fun little game with the NSA. The NSA tells us they're not doing something, and then we found out it's already done. For instance, nobody is listening to your telephone call. And it turns out they're totally listening to your telephone call. They're storing them in this giant Utah fortress of surveillitude. Next. With respect to the internet and emails, this does not apply to U.S. citizens.
The Obama administration quietly won permission a couple of years ago from a surveillance court to have the NSA
Search for the communications of Americans, intercepted phone calls and the like. On the bright side, under this plan, if you like your NSA spy, you get to keep your NSA spy. So that's something. But of course, the government. That's done. I had no idea we could keep our same spy. That's shocking and delightful. But of course, the government couldn't get away with doing things that they swore they weren't doing because of the strictness of the oversight of the nothing they weren't doing. This program, by the way, is fully overseen not just by Congress, but by the FISA court. It's being carried out consistent with the Constitution and rule of law. See? But it turns out it wasn't so much rule of law consistent as rule of law adjacent.
New revelations that the NSA, the biggest spy agency in the United States, has been routinely breaking privacy rules.
Made to be broken. What? I'm sorry, wait, no, that's Precious Moments figurines. That rules are made to be broken, rules are made to be followed. And even though they have said repeatedly that these programs are only used to catch bad guys,
Reports surfacing that some employees at the agency are tracking their love interests, using the enormous power of the government to eavesdrop on their significant others or people they'd like to become their significant others.
Nah, not good.
hey, I just met you. This is crazy. But here's your number of your bank account and Social Security. So call me, or I will continue to monitor your activities. I feel like at this point, our intelligence community is pretty much even owning the fact that they're getting nefarious. For God's sakes, last week the National Reconnaissance Office launched this spy satellite into orbit, and the logo they chose for their spy rocket, this is real. The face off of North America. What the hell is that? We have no interest in your calls.
So the takeaway from all this is that Jon Stewart recognizes what we were talking about last week, that the millennials are very upset with what's going on with the NSA and Snowden and the revelations that a lot of our emails and voice are are somehow stored by the individual corporations that provide that service, but that the government can go and look at those recordings or those records. And the nerd community of the millennials, the people technology and involved with, you know, everything computer, they're very much talking about this situation, and on their respective sort of sites for the nerds, they're really mad at these revelations that are coming out of the Obama administration that they're actually spying on people. And so Jon Stewart, he understands his audience, which is primarily the millennials, and he understands that he had better start to adopt some of their outrage towards these spying techniques, or he's going to lose his audience share. So it's just sort of a backdoor way to substantiate exactly what I've been talking about in terms of the millennials and their dislike of Obamacare, and also their oh, I'm trying to read a message. Okay, gotta message somebody. Oh, okay, let's see here. Where am I? Oh, here's a let's see. The next story is we actually reported on this story. All right? And I remember at the time I said to you, I thought, well, you know, I'm kind of reluctant to do this story, or in doing this story I need to be cautious because this story is so outrageous. I don't want to be one of those people that got caught actually reporting on a story that's not true. And I mentioned that at the time, and this was months ago. And then now this story is starting to make its rounds again. And I picked it up this time from your daily dose of conservatism, which I have never been burned on. And the headline here reads, 2 Christians beheaded in New Jersey by Muslim man, media silent. And this is written by Steve Foley. And you should look at this guy, this Muslim guy that beheaded these 2 Christians in New Jersey. I mean, he looks a lot like Kurt Cobain, or he almost looks like, I'm trying to think of that other rock guy that died. Jeez, I can't think of his name. It doesn't matter anyways. It says, while the national media covers the Oscar Pistorius murder wall to wall, the gruesome murder of beheading of 2 Coptic Christians by a Muslim has been virtually blacked out. This despite the fact that the story was broken on ABC television local affiliate in New Jersey. And this was back in April. The Muslim accused of beheading 2 Christians in the U.S., torture, persecution of faithful no longer reserved for the Islamic nations. And also, this is written by Bob Unrein. He says, authorities in the New Jersey allege that the Muslim man beheaded 2 Coptic Christians, burying their bodies and heads and hands in separate graves near Philadelphia, bringing the horror of the persecution of Christians in Islamic nations in the United States. According to the New York WABC TV, the Muslim was identified as Yusuf Arabram, 28. He was taken into custody after the bodies were found. The report said that the investigation alleged Ibram killed the victims, then severed their heads and hands and buried the remains in the backyard of a home in Buena Vista, New Jersey. The report said the victims were from the Coptic Christian community in the area. One of the victims had come from Egypt not many years ago. While the report said police did not indicate a motive, friends of the victims wondered if it was something to do with religion. The WABC reporter Jeff Pragus wrote that members of the close-knit Coptic church feel the pain. It's a shock. Something like this doesn't happen to people like that, one resident told him. As a side note, the Coptic Christians are the oldest Christian organization on the planet. I mean, they were before the Christians, believe it or not. And Pamela Keller, who blogs about Islam on Atlas Shrugged, we report on her sometimes, said it appears to have been a ritual killing or religious in nature. The victims were Coptic Christians and the murderer was Muslim, and we are painfully aware of the status and treatment of Coptic Christians under Muslim rule in Egypt, she wrote. The killing invokes this passage in the Quran, when thy Lord was revealing to the angels, I am with you, so confirm the believers, I shall cast upon the unbelievers hearts terror, so smite above the necks and smite every finger of them. That's in the Quran 8.12. But at any rate, this story has not gotten any attention from the mainstream media. I mean, could you imagine if a Coptic Christian had cut off the head and hands of a Muslim? It would be 24/7 around the clock reporting, but this story still doesn't seem to get any attention. And I should probably, if I was thinking, and obviously I'm not thinking sometimes, I should just put in here Coptic Christian beheading. See if I get any hits. Coptic Christian beheading. Let's see. There's Yossi Ibrahim, Muslim man, was targeted and murdered 2 Coptic Christians. That's from the Coptic World. The commentator, gruesome beheading in Coptic Christian. The WND, there's a reference in that last story. And authorities in New Jersey alleged the Muslim man beheaded 2 Coptic Christians, burying their bodies. All right, so, and then on the Christian News, Jersey City, New Jersey, Muslim man behind bars tonight and is facing murder and desecration charges. Truth, a fiction, New Jersey Coptic Christians beheaded, truth summary. Let's see, before it's news. You got to be careful with that website, I think. Although I just did a story from them. 2 Coptic Christians murdered and beheaded in New Jersey. Media silent. Targeted and murdered 2 Coptic Christians. Let's see. Counter Jihad report. Post about Coptic Christians beheading. And also we got Fahrenheit 211. Tolerance leading in the case to the beheading of those is that although anti-Christian. And nothing about this story, this gruesome story of 2 people getting beheaded, and nothing came up on the internet from the mainstream media. So this story is either a farce, which I don't think it is, or it's, again, another example of the mainstream media lying to the public by omission. And I think probably the latter is the case here, because that's a huge story. Generally, we don't have people getting beheaded in the U.S., but now we do. All right, if you want to call into the program, you can do so. All you got to do is dial 646-716-85. And if you'd like to talk to the Trailer Park Prophet, Daniel Gray, on Local Friday, you can do so. Just call 646-716-8506. All right, moving on. Let's see what else we got cooking here today at the Trailer Park Prophet. Okay. I wish that dog wasn't barking. Oh, this I said that I was going to do. And we've done this story before. I did this story 2 years ago. And I can't, oh, this is actually Toria Jackson. She used to be on the Saturday Night Live crew. And she writes here, Senator Barack Obama, October 7th, 2008 presidential debate, and I remember this. He said during that presidential debate, he said, for my mother to die of cancer at the age of 53 and have to spend the last months of her life in the hospital room arguing with the insurance companies because they're saying that this may be a pre-existing condition and that they don't have to pay for her treatment, there's something fundamentally wrong about that. That was President Obama saying in this presidential debate in 2008 that the reason we need to reform our healthcare system is for people like her mother, President Obama's mother, that he claimed were in the hospital, like his mother, and were refused treatment because insurance companies said, well, hey, you know, you had a pre-existing condition. And I remember this. I remember that. Well, come to find out, the New York Times reporter Janie Scott researched this claim and confirms it is false. Cigna never denied Stanley M. Durham, President Obama's mother, coverage for her disease. So he just out-lied. And this is kind of back in the beginning and demonstrates that President Obama is not capable of telling the truth. The only thing President Obama has said that came true is that he is fundamentally transforming the United States. That is true. All right. Hang on just a second. This dog is really bumming me out. So I'm going to turn and I'm going to throw this beast some dog food so he doesn't bark. And of course there's an advertisement. I bet this is AIG. Yep, sure.
We're here to help secure retirements and protect financial futures.
To help communities recover and rebuild.
For companies going from garage to global. To help you realize.
Go to garage to global. All right, I'll be right back. Let me throw this.
Music that you walk by can right. We're the best in town. Just by chance you cross the diamond with the pearl.
All right, I'm back. This is citizen journalist Daniel Gray. So you got to figure sometimes it's going to be kind of weird when you're listening to a citizen journalist. Now we have Bart. Oh, quiet. Oh, this is interesting. David Axelrod is one of President Obama's chief advisors. And he said recently when asked, it looks like he's at the airport, whether or not President Obama lied to people when he said that they could keep their doctor if they wanted to keep their doctor, that they could keep their insurance plan if they wanted to keep their insurance plan, and that their premiums would be reduced by $2,500. David Axelrod was asked recently about those statements that President Obama made over and over again, and David Axelrod said, quote, Obama has been honest about the ACA, but made a mistake speaking in absolutes. And he said, let it be known that these were not lies. In fact, according to David Axelrod, Obama was being completely honest when he made these claims Unfortunately, he was ill-served by the law he fought for, signed, and continues to promote at every possible opportunity. Clearly, it's not his fault. Axelrod believes that the real problem was that President spoke in absolutes. He made clear, pointed promises, all of which have turned out to be not true. And they've come back to bite him in the rear. Never mind that without these 3 bald-faced lies listed above, the Affordable Care Act would have never become law. In Axelrod's opinion, Obama should have been a little vaguer. Quote, because there's always going to be an exception, and that exception is going to become an example that your opponents lift up. See, the real problem that's plaguing Obama is that he actually said what his law was supposed to do. He just kept his mouth shut. There'd be no benchmarks by which to measure his failure. That twisted bit of non-logic is how Axelrod really thinks. The problem here is that there are already about 5 million exceptions and many, many more on the way. We're not talking about the simplest mistake that has produced an unforeseen impact on a handful of extreme cases. We're talking about a premeditated train wreck that will eventually affect every single American, all predicted on an ongoing series of outright lies that were used to sell the U.S. public a seat in the bar car. But hey, here's David Axelrod to tell you how the president wasn't lying. He was just being too specific. Be sure to... Alright, let's see if we can actually hear Axelrod. I hope there's not a commercial. I didn't listen to this before, so I might...
Anyway, the one area where the president has clearly taken a hit is on the question of trust. In the latest NBC Wall Street Journal poll, Americans were asked to rate the president on the qualities of being honest and straightforward. 37% rated him good, 43% rated him. And that's it. If you look at where he was on these issues, he has taken a big hit, and those numbers have essentially been reversed. You know, I do think this is a problem, and I support the president, or I agree with me, or I agree with him on a lot of these issues, obviously, David. But the question of that claim he made that if you have a health insurance policy you're happy with, you'll get to keep it, was a pretty simple, broad promise. He has to keep it. It's not there. Is there any way you can fix that? I noticed he's doing things like our interview last week, which I agree. I'm glad he did. Certainly out there. Can he just? Is part of that just getting out with young people and showing he's there to answer their questions, or what?
I think part of it is being honest about it, and he has been honest about it. Part of it is getting it fixed as best that you can. There's no doubt that that is at the core of the problem when you come to this measure, and I think he was ill-served because I'm sure when he said what he said, he believed it. When they put the grandfather clause in, he believed that that would take care of these kinds of transitional problems. It didn't. And, you know, I think the real lesson here is don't ever speak in absolutes, because there's always going to be an exception, and that exception is going to be that your opponents lift up. And what did you think? Examples. What do you think?
Don't speak in absolutes. Don't speak in absolutes. Then why have legislation? Why bother putting ink on paper if there's no future? If people don't say what they mean and mean what they say, then there's no hope of ever progressing in this society, in this world. Our politicians have to be truthful to us. But when they passed Obamacare, no one had read it. Not one human being on planet Earth had read Obamacare when it passed in 2010. So Obama never knew what was in the bill. I don't imagine. All he knew is that he had his sycophant progressive socialist friends in behind the closed doors writing Obamacare, so he probably figured, hey, nothing to worry about here. All right, hang on here. I got a little message. One minute here. All right. Let's see here. Associated strike these days. It's such a production getting to the car. Okay. All right. Let's see. Moving on. I had to read that message. It's important. And since I'm in control here at the Trailer Park Profit Show, I can pretty much do what I want, I guess. I mean, not that I take advantage of your time. I try not to, but every once in a while I need to take a personal break. All right, let's see. We did that story. Let's see. Oh, what is this? I can't remember what this is. Oh, this is kind of interesting story. This was in the Washington Post. I read this article talking about how Washington, D.C. is a world apart. And it says that 1/3 of zip codes in the D.C. area are considered what they call super zips. And super zips are for the wealthy and the educated. So you can see that Washington, D.C. has attracted a lot of lobbyists and so-called intellectuals, and they're hanging their hat around Washington, D.C. area, which is referred to as super zips for the super rich. And it says here, this came from King TV. Sources are claiming as few as 5 to 15% of Obamacare enrollees have paid their premiums. And remember, you don't actually have an insurance policy until you actually pay your premium. And this report from King TV said that only 5 to 15% of the, I can't even remember now how many people they're saying have signed up for Obamacare. I don't think it's over 1 million, or it is over 1 million, just barely. Well, at any rate, this is claiming that of the individuals who have actually signed up for Obamacare, the so-called enrollees, only 5 to 15% have actually paid their money. And remember, we did that other story that whoever set up the Obamacare website forgot about having a place in the website to actually collect money from the people trying to buy the insurance, which shows you government, you know, now a business sector wouldn't have missed that, you know, they just wouldn't have. I mean, you got to get the damn money. You got to pay the bills. You got to keep the lights on. You got to pay the employees. You got to pay for the health insurance. But the government, they don't have to pay for any of their overhead, so they can forget something like, well, how are we going to get money to fund this program? Hell, not one of those Ivy League Einsteins even thought of that. And let's see. Do I want to do this story? Napolitano. Maybe I'll come back to that story. What do we got? Half hour late. Let's see. There might be something even. Oh, here's a really interesting story, and this is what you're going to see happening in the ensuing. You're going to see more and more Democrats that are running for re-election next year in the 2014 election cycle are going to have to throw President Obama under the bus. And most recently, this happened by Mary Landau, who's seeking another seat in the U.S. Senate from, I think she's from Arkansas? No, from Louisiana, I think. At any rate, yeah, Louisiana. And so she had been out there supporting Obamacare for the last 6 years, and now she's having to throw Obama under the bus because her constituents in Louisiana don't like Obamacare. And the only way she can get reelected is by throwing President Obama and Obamacare under the bus. So you can bet in 2014, President Obama is going to be the most prevalent body under more buses than probably any politician in the history of the United States. Because Mary Landau is a big time, and remember, Mary Landau actually was one of the senators that was holding out on Obamacare. And she ended up getting some $300 million for state's Medicaid program, and it was referred to as the Louisiana Purchase, that her vote was bought in favor of Obamacare by giving the state some $300 million. And now she's having to change her course and come out against Obamacare. Here's a interesting story. Actually, it's a picture. A picture paints 1,000 words. And you may not know, we talked about the Nelson Mandela Service Memorial in South Africa. And of course, the Obamas took the Bushes and some other people down there for the ceremony, and President Bush and Mrs. Bush went. But this picture kind of shows what a, I don't know. I mean, it does kind of show maybe a difference in generation, demonstrates how President Obama isn't much of a gentleman. And it shows President Bush and Mr. and Mrs.
Obama coming off Air Force One. And President Bush is holding the umbrella over his wife, Barbara Bush. And Michelle Obama is right next to Barack Obama, and she's carrying her own umbrella. And President Obama is just looking off into the crowd like he wants to see who's there to greet him. But it kind of does show the difference in generations, and maybe it shows a difference in character between Bush and Obama. I mean, in a way. Let's see. Oh, this story here. This story really upsets me. I just saw this right before we went on the air. And this story comes from Health Impact News Daily. And it says here that a Florida judge orders homeschool children to attend public school. Let's see. The Health Impact News editor, the right for parents to educate their children as they desire is under attack, as we have reported previously. Homeschooling is growing 7 times faster than public schooling. I didn't know that. And the U.S. government is... Okay, I got to give this dog some food. Maybe he'll stop. Hang on, just... Hold on. All right, I'm back. So, homeschooling is growing 7 times faster than public schooling, and the U.S. government is progressively taking actions to restrict it. Parents are increasingly keeping their children at home to educate them, avoiding government intrusion into their family lives, which includes mandatory vaccinations, toxic school meals, the questionable education material, among other things. Having access to the nation's children is an economic necessity for the distribution of vaccines and government subsidy food programs at the schools. As public school enrollment decrease,
it causes economic hardship on pharmaceutical companies and large commodity processed food corporations. Which other story? And it was talking about the guy that created Ritalin
And the whole notion of attention deficit order. He just died, and he essentially admitted on his deathbed that ADD, attention deficit disorder, and Ritalin were all made up. There was no scientific proof. And he admitted that on his deathbed. And you think about all of the public school teachers out there that have had trouble with their kids, and they send them to the office, and the school nurse diagnosed all these millions of kids of having ADD, and then eventually getting them prescribed Ritalin. And I thought, when I first heard about Ritalin like 10 years ago, that somehow there's something really rotten in Denmark. That kids have to be kids, and that they should have dated. And I wondered the other day, I wonder how much money the various teachers unions have spent, or rather their retirement plans have invested in pharmaceutical companies that were actually selling Ritalin. And I'll bet you anything, if you went to any one of these teacher association retirement funds, you would find in their investment portfolio Ritalin. At any rate, prejudice against homeschooling children is prevalent, as can be seen in the recent case in Florida where a judge ordered homeschooled children to attend public school. The children had been appointed a guardian by the court in a visitation dispute between their divorced parents. While neither parent had any issues with children being educated at home, the guardian and judge acted independently and decided for themselves what they deemed best for the children, and ordered them to start attending the public school, even though both parents were committed to raising them Catholic. Homeschool Legal Defense Fund has filed an amicus brief on behalf of the children. And, it goes into, the peculiarities or the particular issues that were involved in this case. But I wanted to bring this to your attention because this is the first time I can remember a judge who ordered kids to go to public school. And I know it's happened before, and I'm sure it's going to happen again, and I'm not at all surprised that they're making the accusation that there is a concerted effort to stop children from going to or actually being educated in their own home. And you'd want to think that, a country that says it's okay to abort a baby, who believes in freedom of choice to abort a baby, that they would also agree that a parent ought to have the choice to decide where their kids go to school. You know what I mean? All right, here's an interesting story, and I bet you won't read this in the New York Times or on NPR. I've seen this on several places, and it's called downtrend.com. Arizona state trooper resigns after it is discovered she is an illegal alien. Get a load of this. A 13-year veteran of the Arizona State Troopers has resigned after it was learned that she was an illegal alien. Tucson NBC is reporting that Carmen Figueroa, who once served as the Arizona Department of Public Safety spokeswoman, likely didn't even know she was an illegal alien until Bart Graves, DPS spokesman, tells the News 4 Tucson investigators, quote,
We believe the affidavit and information she gave us at the time, and she was under the impression that she herself was an American citizen. DPS officials wouldn't say if Figueroa would be charged with a crime, but Graves told the Associated Press she would have been fired if she didn't step down because state law requires all sworn officers to be U.S. citizens. She did not really find out until this summer. I find that hard to believe. How do you not know you're an illegal alien? I mean, you have to present a birth certificate in order to get a driver's license. I mean, come on. But anyways, she said she was an illegal alien, though I believe the confrontation with her mother, Fiona's citizen status, came to light when her brother, a member of the U.S. military, applied for the State Department for a passport, and federal authorities learned that he had a sister who was an Arizona State police officer. Figueroa spent about a decade as a highway patrol officer in southern Arizona before she became a detective and had an exemplary record on the job. That she's the only one. And I bet that's probably the case, that there's a lot of other people out there that
Are illegal aliens, and they have these plum jobs with the government. Oh, sexiest man alive, Adam Levine, brought in to boost Obamacare enrollment. Barack Obama is bringing in the sexiest man alive to convince the public that Obamacare is a good idea and to ultimately boost enrollment into Obamacare. So, are you swayed by the sexiest man in the world to sign up for Obamacare? Not me. Okay, moving on. This is, let's see. This story, I really, I can't believe this. Although this is the second time I've seen this story. It does come from right-wing news. And basically, let's see, I don't know if they actually posted this story. I read this earlier. Basically, get a load of this, to outfit Afghanistan's security forces with new helicopters, the Pentagon bypassed U.S. companies and turned instead to Moscow for dozens of Russian Mi-17 rotorcraft at a cost of more than $1 billion. Senior Pentagon officials assured skeptical members of Congress that the Defense Department had made the right call. They repeatedly cited a top-secret 2010 study, they said, named the M117 as a superior choice. Turns out the study told a very different story, according to unclassified excerpts obtained from the Associated Press. An American-made helicopter, the U.S. Army's workhorse, the Chinook, built by Boeing in Pennsylvania, has found to be the most cost-effective single-platform type fleet for the Afghan Air Force over a 20-year period, according to excerpts. However, Boeing is on the outs with the hard left for standing up to unions. Obama has even used his Marxist National Labor Relations Board to prevent the company from opening new facilities, and the 63 M117s are being acquired through a contract that was awarded without competition to Russia's notoriously corrupt arms export agency called the Rosbornenexport. An internal defense contract audit agency document shows that the department could not conduct a comprehensive cost comparison because Rothenport wouldn't allow U.S. auditors to look at his books. And the other thing, too, I mean, you can bet that these craftsmen in Russia that are going to build these helicopters aren't union. Having troops in Afghanistan is also insane, considering that Obama said long ago that he is not interested in victory and that under his demented rules of engagement, they are not
they would only to be killed. Afghanistan is a Muslim country, and the blood and treasure wasted there will not make it any less hostile to us when the troops finally leave by the end of next year. Americans, some of whom could be building helicopters, are out of work thanks to Obama aggressively fueling unemployment with virtually every domestic policy. Meanwhile, the shovels of our money after he shovels money at the Russian adversaries. And remember too, also here recently, the Army gave a big, huge contract to a Brazilian aircraft manufacturer, and we make the same or better plane in the U.S., but yet foreign nations for some reason. I don't know why. All right, let's see here. Moving on. Only 10 minutes left. Let's see. I want to make sure that I might just call it off early. Oh, this is kind of funny. This is really funny. This is a funny story. Funny story. The Obama commemorative scandal plates. This comes from cnsnews.com. Let's see. It's the Obama Scandal Collective paper plates. Each paper plate is lovingly crafted to commemorate the classic scandals from the Obama administration, from Benghazi to the IRS crackdown on conservatives. Each of the scandals of the administration is reproduced on quality paper plate. Treat each plate the same way the administration treats a scandal. As soon as it gets messy, just simply toss it away. Order now. Supplies are limited. And you can get your supplies on... I really plates up. Anyways, if you're really interested, you can go to cnsnews.com. Some people are just so creative. Oh, this is kind of a funny story. This definitely cracked me up. Now, you've heard a lot about how marijuana is now legal in Colorado and Washington State. Well, what you don't know about marijuana... you're going to probably wish you didn't know any more about this, you know? At any rate, Seattle vet offers medical pot for pets. That's right, you can get pot for your puppies. And I'm waiting for this to post, give you a little more information, you know, in case you need to check out your puppy and see if you need some pot. 2 Seattle veterinarians are pioneering the use of medical marijuana to treat pets. Dr. Sarah Brandon, co-founder of Canna Pet, says medical cannabis can be used for many ailments plaguing your dog or cat. Cannabis controls inflammation to reduce pain.
Everyone's looking for ways to save. Why not save on car insurance?
Okay, it says that cannabis can control inflation to reduce pain from arthritis, she says. They can help reduce anxiety. Brandon and her colleague, Dr. Greg Kopis, launched Canna Pet 2 months ago because citing the traditional pet medicines can have undesirable side effects. For example, Brandon says anti-inflammatory can cause vomiting. Opioids can cause decreased appetite. These are reportedly common arguments to support the use of medical marijuana for humans. However, Brandon says her treatment will not intoxicate your dog or cat. Quote, we focus on the non-THC portions of the plant that seem to really have the best benefit without giving the animals a high that recreational users seek. What did I just do? I just cut off the whole story. I just cut off. Oh, I just accidentally went to a progressive ad. All right. Well, anyways, I guess we're done with the puppy pot. Oh my god, puppy pot. You know what's going to be next? Puppy porn. And here is a priceless photo. One of Nelson Mandela. Now, you know, we've been talking a lot here at the Trailer Park Profit Show about voter registration and how the left has used this issue as a wedge issue and suggests that we don't need voter ID. And here, right before my eyes, is a picture of Nelson Mandela wearing a t-shirt. He obviously was at a rally, and it was by the ANC, which is the African, let's see, no, what is that? I forget what ANC is all of a sudden. I'm having a little brain fart. But at any rate, that's the organization that Nelson Mandela was a part of. The African National Congress, or which is a communist organization. That's what it is. Nelson Mandela was part of the African National Congress. That's the party that he ran for president, got reelected. So he's wearing one of their promotional T-shirts, and on this T-shirt that Nelson Mandela is wearing is "Get an ID, register to vote." Get an ID, register to vote. And the progressive socialists in this country don't want people to have to get an ID. It's just impossible to put a Cadillac up your nose. Oh, this is a terrible story. I read this. I actually got this story from the Daily Cost. This rich kid was drunk driving the family company truck, and he ran into a car. He was going 70 miles an hour in a 40-mile-per-hour zone and killed 4 people. And the judge lets him off because he's rich, according to this writer for the Daily Cost. This kid got off with counseling. He didn't see any jail time and no fine, and he killed 4 people when he was drunk. 3 times the legal limit. And he had a Valium in his system. I think this was down in Carolina, if I remember correctly. Let's see, what do we got for time? 3 minutes. Maybe time for one story. But you know what? I think we're going to just get out of here earlier. This dog is giving me a flipping headache. All right, everybody. Drizzle, drazzle, drizzle, drone. Time for this prophet to go home. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. You know who loves ya. Trailer Park Prophet.